Let's phase the Uber Sirus. Yeah, I think we're really strong against him. The lucky block and spell block and suppression, he can't do any damage. Okay, proc it. This is the only dangerous part, but as long as we get out of the maze, we're chilling. This is sad, we can't do any damage here. Wow, die beam didn't even proc my block. Please, hit me. There. D-gens there on the only dangerous part, honestly. Yeah, too bad we can't do damage here. We have to wait for a hit. I don't like that phase because he has DR, so it doesn't really help us. Dead? Nope. Oh, wait, he didn't bleed? Massive thread of hope? Massive thread of hope. Right here. So I've been farming this tree recently on Jungle Valley. I scried over better cards from another map. It's just Breach, Beyond, and the red guy. Pretty chill. I really like this mapping thing. Doesn't take too much effort. It's just Breach, Breach, double for +4 breaches, 2 of these for 100% more splinters, and the thing that guarantees Breach Lord. You can either run it regular or you can spend, where is it? There's Breach. You can spend a little bit extra for the Breach. Do that here. So go into the map. It's pretty good to clear for this build, right? So we just are aiming for the Breach Lord. I actually don't care about anything else. So see that? As soon as you see the icon, that's the only thing that you need to care about. Pick up his 10 splinters he drops every time. Sometimes he drops a Breach Stone, but usually it's at least 10 splinters from him. I don't pick up the rest of the splinters, too much effort, not worth the time. And that's basically it for the loot and the strat, honestly. We're really tanky, so we can kill everything. Get hops. And yeah, pretty good overall, I would say. Quant there. Sure as fuck. What is this? We'll get the quant, I guess. Yeah, not much effort. This is the only thing that I care about. We just go into the Breach. The real important one is the purple guy because he's the big money. Otherwise, just kill the boss. At my damage level, it's easy. We're tanky. And overall, pretty chill strat. You don't have to kill the boss unless it's number 14 or 28 on the map cycle for the invitations. And that's pretty much it for the strat, you can see. It's pretty chill, you'll get a lot of Breach Stones just by killing the boss every time. And that's the only thing I care about at all. Pretty cheap strat. I think the scarabs are like 1 seed, so really good XP. I think I'm getting like 1 or 2% at 98. Hey everybody, I just wanted to make one last update to my Gladiator Eviscerate Bleed League starter. This is as far as I want to push this character as far as gearing and content. We killed all the Ubers, we did everything I wanted to do, we farmed t17s. It was all decently comfy. The build is actually pretty strong as a league star, I would say, but it's a bit clunky because you do need to get hit to proc the Eviscerate, which is our main bleed damage. So you need to be tanky enough to tank whatever you're trying to fight. Tank equals damage basically, because we have to block to do damage, and if you can't tank the hit, well, you can't block then, and then if you can't block, no Eviscerate, no damage. So you really want to be super tanky on this build, which it was. right? As you can see, our stats right here, 24k armor with determination on. I'm actually using terrible bases for most of my gear, honestly. We could get a lot better bases for the flat armor / evasion. We are using iron reflexes to turn evasion into armor. So this could be a lot higher, but I didn't really roll the prefixes very good on my gear either. We also have full suppression, 53% with the mastery, damage taken from spells, res 78, 78, 77, 75 chaos cap, 65, 65 spell and attack block. So that means after the first block, you'll see the ping for Eviscerate proc. That means you are 88, 88 spell and attack block. And combined with the life gain and hit shield from the Shaper mod, you basically take 0 damage from any multi-hit or small hits. You're basically immune. The only thing that will kill you is degen and one big hit or a few really, really big hits. So extremely tanky. Basically while mapping, I didn't really die at all. At a certain point, it's just super tanky. We are ailment immune too, and a little bit of crit reduction. Ideally, you want to go to 100%, right? Or very high crit reduction, so you don't take those single big hits. We also have 5 endurance charges. We get it through Enduring Cry / endurance charge on kill. So that has a really high uptime because it's 22 seconds with the charge mastery. And overall, super tanky as far as the rest of the build goes. Pretty good against bosses, honestly. I can show you guys a Uber Shaper fight later on. Honestly, Uber Shaper was easier than regular Shaper because we were tanky enough to tank the Shaper balls. And the clones means more enemies, more chances to proc block. That means more damage with Eviscerate uptime, right? So, like I said, tank equals damage. So if you can't tank the attack, like originally when I fought Shaper in day 2 or 3, horrible fight because I couldn't take the Shaper balls. So we just had a regular melee attack that he does. That's the only thing I could tank. Maybe like I was trying to run in at the last second to tank like one Shaper ball, and yeah, I couldn't do any damage. It was a horrible fight. But once you got tanky enough to tank the Shaper balls after I got suppression on the build, it's actually not too bad. But certain bosses like Orchard boss that doesn't really do too many attacks that you can block, it just feels terrible because well, you don't get your 6 link worth of damage. And I'm using Sunder as like a 4 link right now. Probably more like a 3 link at my gear level since I'm using additional accuracy to cap the accuracy on it. But you can have a 4 link. Maybe if you want to really get a good clear skill, you can use Sunder and then or whatever you want as far as skills go. Make it a pseudo 5 link with the Essence of Delirium for 30% more dot damage. So you can do that as a clear skill. And then Eviscerate as a 6 link for your single target. This is a pretty good setup I found. Anything else about the build? I mean, it's really good against like certain mechanics. We're talking about Harbinger, Expedition, Breach, Ultimatum. Anything that does a lot of small hits where you can constantly proc Eviscerate. There's Eviscerate between the bleed pops. Just extremely good clear. It just like destroys entire packs really easily. And you're super tanky against small hits because life gain block on the shield, not to mention 88 block once the first block gets procced. So really good at that content. And that's pretty much it for the build, honestly. Bit clunky, like I said, with Retaliate. Play around with it. If you don't enjoy it, then try a different build. But it was enjoyable enough for me, especially as a league starter. So I'm gonna go over the gear really quickly for the build. Axe, you're just looking for percent physical, flat damage. Get as big as you can. On the suffix, you want attack speed for quality of life. And Fizz.multi is the craft. Reaver Axe, best base. And this is a stupid axe, 600 physical damage. I crafted this myself, took like 20 or so divs to make. Don't need anything nearly this good. I killed all the Ubers on this. 440 physical damage. Around the 400 physical damage Reaver Axe will take you to endgame. Yeah. So this is good enough for the end game. Obviously, this is way better, but you don't need anything that crazy. And the helmet, we're looking for suppress, resist, life. That's most of the gear. There's nothing really special about any of the gear. As far as the implicits go, we got the reduced mana cost attacks. That's pretty important. You get that plus 2 nodes on the tree and 2 crafts of minus flat mana. That's how you can use all the spells. The other implicit is mana reservation. I think this is the wrong route probably. I had to do a lot of stuff to fit in my 3 auras: Malevolence, Determination, and Pride. Right here, Anoint, Charisma. And we also had to get, I believe, 3 jewels with 3% mana efficiency each. And Enlighten. Just to fit into auras. And not to mention the mana cost is pretty annoying to fix, because I had to get 3 flat crafts for this version of the build. I think Herald of Purity is probably the better play because it's only 25% aura. It just is way easier on the aura and mana. Not to mention, we aren't really scaling aura effects, so these auras aren't as good as usual because usually you get some aura effect tree from the nodes, but we don't really have any, so I think this is a wrong play, but we committed down this path, and I don't want to mess around with the build anymore. As far as the amulet goes, the most important mod here is damage over time, life, resist. You can also use the Elder Amulet. You can do Fizz rerolls to force the Fizz dot multi. It's a little bit lower than the T1 I have here, but there's not really any good way to get damage over time multi. Buy a fractured base is the easiest way to craft one, but other than that, you can't force it, and it's low weight, so you sort of have to buy or just chaos or randomly get it. Or Elder Amulet, like I said. As far as shield goes, the most important mod is life gain on block plus suppression. We needed to get suppression capped. You do want an I-86 Shaper shield. Evasion is easier to craft. Evasion / armor will probably get you more armor overall with iron reflexes, but it's much harder to craft a suppression because I think it has half the weight compared to a pure evasion shield. So you just get life on block, suppression. That's all you want on the suffix. Whatever you get for a third one is whatever you get, and then life and armor, evasion. Like I said, you want that on all the bases. Same thing here. The implicits, pride effect for more damage. And gain frenzy every 13 seconds. That is how we are getting our frenzy charges, because with the charge mastery, each one lasts 20 seconds, so basically it will stack up to max frenzies eventually. Ailment avoidance craft 25%. I need that to get ailment avoidance. We can go to boots. The boots, I use the loathing essence to get that mod there, and then on the implicit, more ailment avoidance and 20% tree, like I said. That's how I get capped. Resist, movement speed, life, evasion, that's all you need. Nothing too special. The rings, same thing. It's just like open prefix for the minus mana craft. Life, resist, like same thing here. I use the essence of delirium. If you have extra room for suffixes, you can use that for a little bit extra damage. Much harder to craft, so yeah. Not too much going on there. Same thing with the gloves. It's just suppression, life, resist. That multi and suppression on the implicits. Ryslatha's belt for, it's just really strong. We have a bleed flask. We have a tincture. Really strong. A lot of damage. I'll show you in POB how much damage it does. As far as testing goes in PvP, you just press it and then do eviscerate, and then it will snapshot that bleed damage from the tincture. So extremely strong. Quicksilver, granite, and quartz for phasing. My gem links really quick for the build and some other options. So Frostblink, faster attacks with shield charge for the movement. In my offhand, we have urgent orders with Endurance Cry to get my endurance charges. We have 22-second uptime on the charges. So between this and endurance charge on kill from the tree, we have high uptime while mapping. And then this is how we get charges for bossing. A vulnerability as our curse. In the helmet, we have Enlighten, Malevolence, Determination, Pride. Like I said earlier, swap that for Herald of Purity. I think that's probably a better choice. Just to go easier on your reservation. You can also maybe fit in a vitality, which is an optional gem you could do for regeneration. Like I said, degen is the most dangerous part of the how we're gonna die, other than big hits. Right here, 307 life regen. So with vitality, it should be pretty solid. The gloves, we are using Sunder, Maim, Awaken Physical Damage, and additional accuracy. I dropped RT. Eviscerate does not need accuracy. It can't be evaded. But we need accuracy for our clear skill. I used Sunder because that felt better to me. I tried EQ. I tried Blade Storm. I tried other things. So this is really good at proccing Aggravate and Maim because it attacks a lot of times really fast. But short range. So not very good at clear, and I didn't like it as far as quality of life, so I settled on Sunder. I'm also using Jagged Techniques usually, so I don't need to proc Aggravate. So this is really if you want to proc Aggravate and go the Measured Retaliation route for this build, which is an option. We'll talk about the guard skills and the boots. Just cast when damage taken, Molten Shell. I probably should get that Vol Molten Shell, but I'm too lazy to get it, and I'm basically done with the build at this point. War Banner for extra burst damage and more duration. In my main links, there's a lot of options here. So we are using Unbound Ailments. I think that's the right link. Just longer bleeds, really strong, and solid 22% damage. Awakened Melee Fizz, Fortify, Eviscerate, Awakened Brutality, and Awakened Swift Affliction. So there's a lot of options. Fortify, I don't think it's the best gem because A, you have to take one hit before you can even use Eviscerate. So no fortifying that first hit. And it only lasts 8 seconds. And for skill, you can't spam. Pretty hard to have full uptime on Fortify. We did get 20 stacks, like a decent amount of time against bosses, but it's a bit unreliable because of the skill. I think in softcore especially, maybe you put Fortify in your clear skill here so you can get Fortify while mapping. And then you use like one of the damage links, like Deadly Ailments, that is 34% more damage. The other damage links that are possible is Cruelty. Didn't like it. This is even shorter duration, 4 seconds for a skill you're not always spamming. So if your bleeds are over 4 seconds, unless you're attacking again within those 4 seconds, you don't get the buff again. And not to mention, if you low roll, you get like 30 or high 20s% of the buff instead of 40 against Uber bosses in particular. So really didn't like Cruelty. Don't think it's a good gem for this build. Expert Retaliation, amazing, especially if you do not go Measured Retaliation. You really do need that for clear. You just slot that in. I usually take out the Brutality for clearing. I basically clear on a 5 link. Really nice. Gives you a way higher uptime and CDR on the Eviscerate when you need it. We also tried to do the thing where you get the Mastery and this node, so 1/3 chance when you use a Retaliate skill to put the CDR on another one off. I also went Measure Retaliation with this Anoint, where it's 70% not to use CDR when you proc Eviscerate. Super clunky. I didn't like it. It's doable. You can mess around with it, but I didn't like it. It was too clunky. And Measure Retaliation is really good for clearing. You don't need Aggravate really for bossing. That's why I see some people using, I think Garatha was using Blade Storm with that. That's how he gets his Aggravates. But I found, just for quality of life, Sunder and then Perma Aggravate was better for me. And yeah, that's all I can say about that. You can do whatever, mess around, see what feels comfortable. But my default ascendancy is Jagged Technique, and I use Sunder to proc the Maim, and yeah, Expert Retaliation is good enough for clearing, at least for me. Blood Rage is also option to just attack faster, quality of life, and get frenzies faster. I had that in the links at a certain point, but I dropped it because I didn't have room. And that's it for the gems. As far as the ascendancy goes, I went Determination Survivor first, so we can proc Eviscerate in the campaign. Gratuitous Violence for clear more than skill, so I can proc the Eviscerate more often, and defensive. And finally, Jagged Technique. I found Jagged Technique to be more comfy, just not having to deal with Eviscerate or Aggravate Bleed, at all. Like, it's just automatically on all the time. So just quality of life of that just felt better. You can definitely go Measured Retaliation with this Anoint No Forgiveness in particular. 70% not to put that on CDR. So you can just spam Eviscerates a lot of times and have much more uptime for clear. But honestly, I felt that with Expert Retaliation Gem in my 6th link, that felt comfy enough between Sunder and that for clear. So that's the option I chose. Do whatever you want, experiment, but I found that much more comfy. So as far as the tree goes, the important parts are here. Reduce mana here to fix the mana cost. My Watcher's Eye here, we have a Determination, Fizz reduction, and 14% faster with Malevolence. Nothing too crazy here. The tattoos are pretty important. I am using 1% block tattoos to cap out my block. Strength is not very useful. You get some flat damage, or flat life, from the strength. Not really relevant that much, especially with how much flat life you can get on gear. So you can tattoo a lot of strength and dex away with whatever you want, like resistance or evasion or armor flat. Whatever you need is an option, since you don't get too much of a benefit from extra stats. Retaliation here, pretty important, 60% AoE. That is important because you want to overlap between the two Eviscerates, and the clear obviously is much better with that. Mastery, really strong, 80% duration of the bleed. That is not calced in POB for whatever reason, so I did a custom config for that. Nothing crazy here, just like generic life, bleed nodes. Okay, this jewel, really important. You can see it's 20% of my bleed damage, 6% fizz damage per node. Super strong. You get so many flat fizz damage here. The flat fizz also affects your pops, so makes the pops much more consistent. Iron reflexes and versatile combatant for a max block and a lot of armor. Right here, we took the 10% less damage from dots because, like I said, the two most dangerous things: one single big hit and damage over time. You can also do the 15% duration if you want, but I felt like this was better. For me, at least. Charge duration, that's how we get our frenzy charge and uptime and endurance charge uptime. Pretty important. Cluster jewel here. Suppression, life. Jewels, you just want life, damage over time, resist, like nothing too special. You just get whatever you can get. I needed 1 block % chance on the jewel, so you might need to get that. It's a good source for 3% attack block. And yeah, that's basically the tree. So as far as, oh yeah, RT. So we were RT for a long time. I dropped that because Eviscerate doesn't need accuracy, and yeah, you have to put a additional accuracy link for your clear skill, which is what I did. And for my gear, a 3 link basically worth of damage is enough for clear, but you're gonna probably need that for a very long time. You're gonna also be blood magic for a very long time, which I was for most of the game. As far as POB goes, Guardian, we are really conservative. I'm not putting any bullshit. So, literally Frenzy, Endurance. You can see if we go block recently, we have infinite health with the life gain on block. Small hits just basically don't do anything. We have decent tank, especially against small hits. Like, we're super tanky, but against one big hit, that's what really matters here. The tincture, like I said, is super important. You can see we're doing around 10 million damage, give or take. Let's just take away tincture mods. I had to custom add this because it wasn't showing up in POB. About 40% of the damage. So pretty important to proc that before you do your bleed. So you press the tincture and then you do Eviscerate. If we want to do some stat padding, we can do this. We can turn on banner 14 million, but like I said, we don't want to do too much crazy stuff. We also don't have Molten Shell on. We are 30% more tanky if that's on. So we are tankier than this. It's just I don't want to show it because that's not always up. No flash on. We have decent uptime with flash because we always do get hit. So if you get a lot of hit on charge prefixes, you do have pretty good uptime on the flash with that. And that's it for the tree and POB. Not too much. I also wanted to add the calcs. Our damage is probably lower. How much lower? I don't know. Maybe 10-20% because of the bleed rolls. We don't attack that often. It probably feels more like 8 million DPS or something like that. It's hard to tell because when the bleed high rolls, you can really feel it, and then when it like low rolls, even with the Ryslathas, it feels like really sad when you low roll. That's why I'm not using volatility. I just want the more consistent damage. And yeah, other than that, pretty strong build, especially on small hits, but you do need to reconfigure probably some stuff for Exarch in particular, I would say, because Exarch balls can't be blocked or suppressed, so we have 0 defenses really other than max res. You probably have to go like a bunch of max res, and what else is good? Purity of Fire maybe, you try to fit that in somehow. But other than that, most of the fights went pretty well. They're pretty smooth, all the Ubers. Yeah. So you have any questions for me about the build or anything like that, just message me, I guess. Uber, Elder. This one should be okay, I think. Because Elder always attacks you, and there's lots of clones and everything. The fight should be okay.
I can't do this just yet.
Yeah, damage is good. Degen ball. Drop it over here. Or one pump bleeding them, which is pretty nice. Smooth, honestly. Yeah, as long as there's stuff attacking you, build's actually pretty good. Sapphire here. Drop this Degen corner. Drop the poop ground. Arena's starting to get a bit bad. That's near the end of the fight, so it's fine. Yeah. Nah. The arena's pretty bad. Alright, Watcher's Eye? Void Forge? Please? Watcher's Eye. Alright, what do we get? Hatred flat. Boom.